Happy Valentine's Day, you love birds. I know there's a lot of love going around today. I'm taking, Adine asked me to be her Valentine's, and I accepted, so I'm off the block just for the day. Check with me next year at this time. But anyhow, happy Valentine's Day. And we got a love show for you later on, okay? Got all the love that you want to handle, okay? But first, let me just tell you, I was watching our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, testify before the House Judiciary Committee. And I must tell you, there were moments I felt like I was watching a Bravo reality TV show rather than a constitutional hearing. I tell you, and that should alarm us, right? Oversight is not entertainment the last time I checked. It is a duty. And the Attorney General represents the rule of law, and members of Congress represent the people, and both require serious discipline. But let me tell you this, instead, too often we saw spectacled, sharp exchanges, rehearsed indignation, interruptions, and lines crafted for viral clips, yes. Let me be candid. Members of Congress have increasingly adopted a tone that is rude, accusatory, and openly hostile in their questioning. That approach may energize a political base, but it does little to elevate the institution. And let me say at the same time, Trump administration officials appeared to have made a strategic decision not to absorb those attacks quietly, but to push back forcefully, and that's what they're doing. That may be politically calculated, but it inevitably escalates the temperature. When confrontation meets confrontation, heat replaces light. Many Americans believe some of the Democratic questioning is less about uncovering truth and more about creating optics to politically wound Trump ahead of the midterms. If oversight becomes campaign theater, it ceases to be oversight, in my opinion. But pushback alone is not leadership either. When the issue includes gun control, ID voter laws, immigration, the rule of law, crime, immigration investigations, or the Jeffrey Epstein files, which seems to set the place into a frenzy this week, the public deserves clarity, not the combat. And what do these fiery exchanges accomplish anyhow, I ask you? Certainly not trust, not unity, not progress. And listen, civility is not weakness, and restraint is not surrender, and respect is not partisan. Leadership is measured in composure, especially when provoked, Bruce Fein, and the country deserves composure. Bruce?
Well, I agree. I think the hearing that we saw was really kind of a campaigning between the Democrats and Republicans for the 2026 congressional elections. It wasn't oversight where there was recognition that oftentimes in government there's shades of gray. I call it chiaroscuro than prime colors, that we need to have judgments and not impugn the motives. You don't disrespect people. You can disagree with ideas. And that clearly was not on display yesterday. And what comes to mind as a comparison, Armstrong, having lived through Watergate, was the Irvin hearings, the House Judiciary Committee hearings on impeachment of Richard Nixon. It never, ever degenerated into what we saw yesterday. It remained civil. There were clearly disagreements, but focused on the Constitution, principles, process that we have to follow if we're going to remain, self-governing with a rule of law. And yesterday wasn't really oversight. They might have had two campaign planks, Republicans and Democrats, and they did what they thought was needed in November. But that's not oversight, and I think it's a proxy, really, of how divided the people have become, or at least the politicians have become. It's like the opposition is the enemy rather than just somebody with whom you have a disagreement.
So let me.
And it makes it very difficult to get to an Aristotelian mean. And most of the time, compromise is the art of politics, and we're moving to extremes rather than to find something that gives something to everybody, but not everything to just one side.
Douglas, Tom Homan announced also this week that the ice surge in Minnesota is coming to an end. What does that mean?
Well, I would hope that it means that Minnesota is willing to play ball. I mean, one of the things that the Trump administration has been very clear about is that they don't want spectacle when it comes to the fights with the protesters, when it comes to the violence in the streets. The Trump administration has said, as long as you comply with federal law and allow immigration services to do their job, we're kosher, we're fine. So my hope is that this drawdown is not from political pressure. It is Tim Walz and the governments in Minnesota and Jacob Frey in Minneapolis have said, okay, you win, we're going to start, allowing ICE to do its job. I think that it is a positive development. I think that, again, Tom Homan is a much better captain of a ship than Democrats are going to give him credit for. If you look at his past, he actually did have the support of a lot of congressional Democrats and Democratic officials in various presidencies throughout the past 20, 30 years. So again, I am more confident with Tom Homan at the helm, but I think the American people should be aware this is not a fight that's over. There are going to be other jurisdictions out there that think that they can fight the federal government on their, constitutionally guaranteed rights to enforce immigration and to enforce our border security. This is not a fight that's over by any stretch of the imagination.
Now, I got to tell you something that should be very troubling to the Trump administration. The acting president of Venezuela, in a sit-down interview, said that Nicolas Maduro was the legitimate president of Venezuela. I mean,
well, I would say this. I think that there is a sense that Venezuela is very tumultuous at the moment, to say the least. And I think that there is a sense that you can't just say, oh, that's right, Maduro was terrible and he was awful and I want to get rid of him. Because one of the things that we've learned from various incursions in other countries, I think Iraq and Iran, or Afghanistan were the two greatest examples, at least in the past 20 years, is that if you just completely hollow out the political base and the governmental structure, you're going to have a bad time. So I think that internally, this woman is more likely than not saying the things that are going to keep the generals, that are going to keep the political structure on side.
So you think the Trump administration is in on that she was going to make this declaration?
I would be shocked if they weren't. I would be shocked if there was no sense that you can't just get rid of everybody. I think you need to have some sort of political structure in place. Otherwise, the whole thing collapses. We don't want to have Afghanistan 2.0. We don't want to have Iraq 2.0, especially on our front door.
Makes sense. Bruce Fein, can you explain to the American people what is really going on in the El Paso airspace? Why it has been shut down for more than 10 days?
Well, we don't know whether they're using drones there, and that could be hazardous to, air traffic. But it shows, again, the need for transparency. We shouldn't be guessing about this. And it's a breakdown, I think, of congressional oversight. In general, the executive branch is far, far too secret. It involves everybody who flies regularly to know, why are we shutting down this airspace?
But there are contradictions between what the White House is saying and what they're saying as officials. I think that's what brings concern to everyday people. They're not on the same page.
No, they aren't, and I think the government is far too secretive about these things. It's another example of overclassification. The American people can't handle this, so it just creates more and more suspicion. Transparency has got to be the rule rather than the exception, and that's not happening these days, unfortunately.
So Douglas, for all the things that are going on in the world today, people are just consumed with Nancy Guthrie. And nothing seems to add up and make sense. I thought it was incredible that Google was able to work with the FBI through their iCloud to secure that footage to give an image of the kidnapper, but just things are not adding up. How do we make sense of this?
I think to Bruce's point, it's a sense that the government isn't always being forthright. I think there's a lot of these issues where you look at it from the perspective of somebody on the ground, as just your average American, and they say, I don't understand this. This is very confusing to me. I would like to be assured that the state, the government knows what's going on. And I think you're right that this Guthrie story is something that has really captured the imagination of people around the book, because it is very confusing. That image of the kidnapper is frightening. I mean, you look at it and it evokes this feeling of fear, discontent. It's not a positive thing. And I think it is one of those other questions that we'll start to learn maybe within the next few weeks to months what really happened here. But until now, I think that, again, you have to have transparency. You have to have a sense that the state knows what it's doing. It is acting in the best interest of the citizenry. And I think to Bruce's point, we're just not seeing that at the moment. It's very confusing what the government oversight sort of is and how they're willing to reveal information to us.
So let me close on this point. You know, Governor Westmore of Maryland and Governor Jared Polis of Colorado were disinvited to the National Governors Association dinner for Friday night. And then the Democratic governors, 16 of them, protested to say they would not attend either if the president did not change what it has been a tradition for who knows how long. And then you have Congress, who continues to concede their power to the White House. And it's just why we have so many executive orders, and obviously people are out of fear. But do they realize, Bruce, that there's a midterm election that's rapidly approaching, and that the Republicans in Congress, Mike Johnson especially, need to find their backbone. They need to find their moral clarity, and they need to challenge the president, because if they don't, if he continues to have his will and his way, they will get annihilated in the midterm elections?
Well, I think there's coming to be that recognition, Armstrong. Just yesterday, when the House decided they would end this rule imposed by Mike Johnson, saying they can't vote to end the national emergency that Trump proclaimed to justify all these what I call stratospheric and erratic tariffs on any country he didn't like. And that's a rebuff of, and Johnson basically is an extension of the White House. He has no independence whatsoever. So I do think the fact that also there have been 4 what we call discharge petitions to getting 218 to circumvent Johnson's ability to control what happens on the floor shows that there's discontent among the Republicans, and they recognize exactly what you stated, that they're scheduled to lose the House in November unless there's some dramatic turnaround and pushback upon Trump's policies. Some are attractive, but many of them are not, especially when we see the prices skyrocketing, and certainly the kind of, I would say, that overreaction or brutal treatment we see with some of these immigration videos out in Minneapolis.
Okay, Bruce,
there's a way to enforce the immigration laws that's short of killing U.S.
Bruce,
citizens.
We're in search of love now. It's Valentine's Day. People heard enough of the political talk. We got to help people understand why love lasts forever. People have been married forever and still with the same spouse. They're not looking for love. Love sleeps with them every night. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of this broadcast. We're going to celebrate love and forget about politics for a minute and remind people about the backbone of America. And you look at Douglas smiling because he knows he's got a good marriage. The backbone of America, the family. It's all about love when we come back. I'm Armstrong Williams. Well, the Allsops are joining us today. There they are. Asa and Janylle. Is it Janylle? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
It's Janylle.
Janylle, doesn't matter. Listen, I'm going to start with you. Does love survive because of compassion, because of passion or commitment? Janylle?
It survives with both. I believe that you need all the tools when it comes to marriage. You've got to work together. I think the love just kind of allows it to run smoothly, but you need a lot of tools in order to sustain marriage.
So, let me talk to your husband. Can love survive without forgiveness?
I don't think so, because I think true love is something that has to stand, the test of time, especially when we're talking about a long-term committed relationship. And, we're all humans. We'll all make mistakes. We'll all have ruptures in any real intimate and vulnerable relationship. And so the ability to forgive and to see the other person as human as they see you and your humanity and move forward together, I think is critical. And obviously not doing the same thing over and over again and expecting, forgiveness and forgetfulness in that regard. But if you can't forgive, then when those mistakes happen, as they will, when those ruptures happen, you don't have the tools to really be able to have an environment in the relationship for repair.
So, Janylle, how is it that love is able to survive disappointment, disagreement, and betrayal?
You're able to survive it with one of the things you just said, which is forgiveness. You're able to survive it with just like the consistency, the safety, the intimacy. You're able to survive it through critical thinking and just analysis of how to solve problems and learn the person's personality and what makes them receive information the way you would like them to receive it, especially in conflict.
So, I'm back to your husband. Does love survive because of the passage of time because of a serious commitment to investment?
Yeah, it has to be a commitment and investment. Time alone won't do it. In fact, what we see in many long-term relationships and marriages is that time alone actually causes drift. People are evolving, people are changing. If there isn't that focused intention by both people and attention to the relationship and the passion of the relationship, then with time, you naturally can start to have drift as people evolve, and you find yourself no longer really being compatible or no longer having the joy, in your relationship or marriage. And so I think the commitment is what allows time to work its magic in a sense.
So, Janylle, is love built? Let me see how I want to frame this there, because this is an important question, especially for young couples. Is love built more on compatibility or character?
I think that love is built on compatibility first and then character. There's a saying called unequally yoked. I think culture, I think the way you're brought up, I think that a lot of different belief systems play a big part in a marriage. And that compatibility actually is very, very important. Doesn't mean that you have to be alike, but having the same values and the same means to kind of deal with conflict really helps the marriage be successful. And the character.
No, I'm making this serious today because marriage is a serious matter. And we could talk about fun, what you guys do together and all that stuff. But marriage is so serious and it's in such jeopardy. And I think it's so important that we have a very serious conversation about these relationships, why they endure. How many kids do you guys have?
We have 6 altogether.
6. So you sort of gave a different reaction when I asked about compatibility and character. Why?
Why?
I'm talking to your husband now. I'm talking to your husband. Something came across him when I asked that question. Go ahead, please.
Well, because I think, the way that the question was asked, it kind of puts those things as juxtaposed. But I think they actually are mutually reinforcing. As my wife was saying, I feel like the compatibility sets a framework and sets, certain things in place that will allow you to navigate different challenges. But I think having a character that allows you to grow and to accept feedback and really even be able to commit, to be accountable, those are things I think are characteristics that one has to also be able to develop. I think over time, just because you're compatible, if those character development pieces aren't there, the relationship, I think, can still suffer. But I don't want to put them as juxtaposed things, because I think you really need both working, in concert with each other.
Janylle, what do you think, for you, that you have to work on the most, on you, to make that marriage work? And your husband is smiling, by the way.
I have to work on the most. I feel like I am a very forgiving person.
Interesting.
And
let me stop you.
sometimes,
Do you need a lot of forgiveness to be married to Asa?
no,
Okay.
not really.
I got you. Okay.
And some people think that forgiveness means that you have to forget. And that's a lesson I've learned over time. And I think that I have to work on just setting boundaries and being assertive and allowing myself to feel uncomfortable in certain moments and expressing that with a good set of communication. So that's what I'm working on.
So, Asa, what role does faith play in this marriage when feelings begin to fade?
Yeah, and AZA, and I think the role of faith for us is foundational. It's actually the first thing, because I think God and the reality of sort of the spiritual dimension gives a relationship a certain grounding that allows it to really stand, I think, the storms that we will come, and the different seasons that come through a relationship. And so for us, having a common platform by which we can discuss our faith, our beliefs. Now, we don't believe everything exactly the same, right? There are places where we differ, but we have a common framework and a common platform that allows us to really discuss those things and help each other in our spiritual growth. And that then feeds into, every other part of our relationship.
So, Janylle, how much more does respect matter in the long run than the romance?
You have to have respect. I think it matters a lot. And I think respect in different ways for different reasons and in different forms. I think that respecting boundaries, respecting thoughts, respecting each other's physically, all the respect matters, all of it.
So, Asa, can love withstand truth even when the truth is uncomfortable?
Yes, and in fact, in some ways it might have to, right? I think like what really allows you to enter that depth of love is when you can be authentic and honest and vulnerable and tell the truth, even when it will be uncomfortable or there might be some pain that comes with that truth. But through that process, you actually become a lot closer and know each other in a more real, authentic, vulnerable, intimate way. And that's really what gives you a lot of the value of being in such a long-term committed relationship, is that you can get to a certain depth of vulnerability and intimacy over time. But that comes by having a space where you can be honest and authentic, even when it's not, easy or fun.
So Janylle, let me come back to you, because this is an important question. Okay, and is enduring love rooted more, let's say, in emotion or in daily choice and discipline?
I think it is a daily choice and it's emotional. They're kind of tied into two. I think you choose to love every single day, because when things get a little rough, when you don't see eye to eye, whether it's external or internal, you just need that component. So I do think so. And emotionally, especially females and males, we're emotional beings. A lot of times emotion even drives the decisions that we do or our reactions, and just like how we're able to communicate. And just understanding what triggers certain emotions, understanding how, like I said, how people receive certain things, especially with me and my husband, we're able to navigate just our relationship better. So, yeah.
You know, this is the important question, especially, how long have you guys have been married? How many
We've
years?
been married for about 3 years.
Yo, you knew at this. So
we've known each other for about 20.
It's okay. Here's the question. What advice can you give to married young couples, how much the marriages change when children come into play?
Mm-hmm.
I would tell people that you have to make time for your children, of course, but you have to make time for each other, because you can get lost in the day-to-day with the children. You can get very committed to just like the taskful things that you have to do every day, whether it's grocery stores, whether it's sports, and you can get at the end of it, when they're out of the house, it's like, who is this person living with me? Because no time was spent. So I think that when children come into play, you need to intentionally make time for your spouse.
I will have you comment on how you make your wife, even at the end of the day, when she's so frustrated and so mad at you, how do you make her soft again, loving again, forgiving you again, and make her feel special?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it, as PG-13 as I can. But I think, you have to really create a space for emotional vulnerability. We might watch a movie that I know she likes, romantic movies. We might watch something like that, spark a certain level of conversation. I might rub her back, rub her feet, just things to really help her de-stress. Sometimes we'll do a guided meditation. There's these different practices that we know can help de-stress and relax and create space for emotional vulnerability. And then, everything can kind of flow from there.
And what do? You have 30 seconds, Janylle. You got to give your what do you have to do when he's in that kind of mood?
I think attention in all different ways, just making time and space to have the conversation. So what I'll do with him is just like recap or debrief the day. And I always ask him, what's your favorite part of the day? I don't want you to start the conversation there, because I want to hear the positive first before we dive into all the things that are bothering you. So I always start with that. And from there, physical touch and everything all plays a part in just like how to soften the situation.
So I do sense as I'm about to say goodbye, the intimacy is still good.
Yes.
Yes. I sense that. Yes. That's what I wanted to hear. Hey, guys, thank you so much for being vulnerable to have a serious conversation about marriage, because this is a serious and the most important decision you've ever made in your life, to live with each other and to have babies to bring forth in the world. Thank you. Much more on our Valentine's celebration. Don't go away.
It is easier to build up strong children than to try and repair broken men.
The streets are plagued with crime, violence. There's a lot of poverty, and it's all a result of lack of education that's happening in our schools. So it really is a crisis.
We come from very different political perspectives, but we've come to the same conclusion, and that is there is a crisis in the classroom. Children are being deprived of quality of life because they're being deprived of a good education. We must solve this problem. It's incumbent upon all of us to join hands together to get this done.
We can't afford to wait one more day before we address these issues, because every day we lose another child.
Let's stop the politicking. Let's stop the games. Let's really do something to give these kids a real chance at life and being a part of that American dream.
We need accountability for funding. Many of the districts where you're seeing very low test scores, students graduating with very low literacy and math comprehension rates, they are receiving a lot of funding. So where is the money going where our kids aren't being adequately educated?
If you believe every child is deserving of a quality education, please go to educationjusticefoundation.com. And now we have Kelly and Steve Laffey. Everybody knows Steve is a regular here. They've been married over 31 years. And so I'm going to start with Kelly. Kelly, what quiet habits protect love over decades?
Well, as a wife, in the words of Tammy Wynette, you have to stand by your man, which is kind of countercultural these days. But you just have to love and honor him, and that's what keeps you. If you follow the Bible in 1 Peter 3, you have to submit to your husband, and your husband honors you, and then things are really nice overall.
So, Steve, I can tell Kelly is warming up. We're going to let Kelly warm up.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're going to let you warm up. But Steve, 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 is love sustained by memory or by vision for the future?
Oh, I think both. Our memories continue to grow over time, and we have, a total of 6 children. So there's lots and lots of memories of travel. We have photo books. You can see behind me photos of Kelly that I like. And then also we always, generally in the morning now, we're only have one child home because she has cancer, but we kind of go over what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. And Kelly's an incredible help to me to think through what next project I might take on. I mean, when I took on the movie Fixing America, she was extraordinarily supportive. And in fact, looking back to when I was about to start a hedge fund in 2001, leaving Morgan Keegan, having been like a real hot commodity, and I had to tell her, God wants me in Cranston, Rhode Island, and I don't want to go. And we had a month and a half on a lease in Stowe, Vermont, and we went the next day because she said, let's go. If God wants you there, let's go. And that's the rest is sort of history in Cranston, where I became the mayor of a bankrupt city.
So, Kelly, back to you.
Yeah.
You're warming up.
Okay.
Can love endure without gratitude?
Absolutely not. Every day is a gift, and you have to look at it that way. We've been through so much with our daughter, and we just have to be grateful. We have to be grateful for all the time that we have together, and we just have to be loving. I think that's what we're called to do.
Well, so let me stay with you. So then, is love a feeling that we fall into, or a covenant that you and your husband must continuously rise to?
Yes. Love is the feeling of love, but you have to choose love. Every day you have to choose to love and be loving and kind. And that's not what happens a lot today in the world. And to teach our children, we have to be loving to each other. And every day is not perfect, and things happen, people fight, but we don't that much. We're very like-minded, and try to be supportive and caring about what each of us, the way we think and the way that we do things.
So, Steve, does enduring love require vulnerability without guarantees?
Well, our guarantee, the only guarantee we have is that we're going to heaven. And so our shared values about Jesus Christ from the very beginning are probably the most helpful thing in our marriage. And that's what should bind couples who are Christians. But I don't know if the vulnerability, I'm certain I'm going to heaven, and I'm just as certain that, when I met Kelly, because we were engaged in about 6 weeks, that she was the one, and that she wouldn't leave me. And that was something that was very important to me in deciding about children very early on, lots of them, and the shared values. But yeah, being vulnerable is totally okay if you have a loving partner.
So, Kelly, what sustains a marriage more? What you receive or what you give?
I think it's what you give. Steve is very giving and kind, and I try to mirror that. I think in life in general, the more that you give, the better things are. The better you are blessed. It overall sustains you to be a giving person, and Steve has been always very, very generous with myself and our kids and our family and his time and giving things up to make our family work.
What is the one thing that he does consistently that has strengthened the marriage?
He goes out of his way to do little things for me. He brings me flowers. He constantly makes sure I'm okay, things are okay. This year's been really rough with all the three youngest leaving all at once. And he has just sustained things by just going out of his way to plan trips and keep things joyful and keeping things positive when we've both been very sad.
So Steve, when love survives crises, what has actually been tested? Trust, loyalty, identity?
Depends on the crisis. I mean, our crisis has been health of our children. So to take Sarah Grace Laffey and the cancer that she was diagnosed with on May 29th of 2015, I don't think any of that really applies. We had to spend a lot of time apart. The head of oncology said, one of you take care of Sarah, one of you take care of everything else. Instead of running for governor, I took care of 3 kids and started homeschooling them, which I did not want to do, which turned out to be the most important thing I think I've ever done in my life, aside from my marriage. And so there was a crisis, but it wasn't a crisis between us. But what I saw my wife do, my wife was not set up to go down to that hospital and have that stress and spend time away from those children, and watching her actually do what she was not naturally set up to do made me admire her even more and made me more committed to say to myself, whatever you do, Steve, today, don't say that. Don't criticize, she is under tremendous stress. Let's get through this day. Let's bring the kids down. Let's do what we can. I had to get rid of horses that she loved because we couldn't keep them. Now, for my wife, that is like a cataclysmic event, but I had to do it. So in the end, the man makes decisions after praying about it and saying, we have to do this for our daughter to survive. This is stage 4 neuroblastoma that still goes on enough with Sarah and our family. So these are critical things. And man, I am so glad I homeschooled 3 little children and admired my wife even more for the strength she showed in things that she wasn't really set up to do.
So Kelly, if you were to advise couples today who are looking for spouses, what characteristics could they look for that would give them the best chance that that marriage will survive just as long as yours?
You have to first and foremost make sure that they're a Christian, and by saying that I don't mean you're a Christian. You don't just go to church, you read your Bible. That's the most important thing. But that they're like-minded with you, and you have to make sure that they think like you politically. With kids, like I told Steve from the very beginning, I would not work if we had kids because I would be happy to work, but I couldn't do both. And we were very blessed. I mean, I know some people are not, but I was so grateful that I was able to stay home, and we raised our family, and we agreed on homeschooling, and we agreed on his politics and what the Bible means, and we go to church, and we encourage each other. You need to find somebody that you can do that every single day and look at their face.
So Steve, how do you disagree with Kelly without attacking her character, belittling her, humiliating her? Explain that to us.
I think on small things, these aren't really important. So if you're smart, if you're a man, if you're listening, a young man, the small things just give away to whatever, right? Whatever you're having for dinner, whatever food you don't like, whatever's overcooked, don't worry about it. My wife's actually a very nice cook, but there are things that go on. On the big things, it's better to sit down and lay everything on the table when no one else is around. And if you're in a Christian marriage like Kelly and I, she does realize that I'm going to have to make the last decision. But if she knows that I come back to her and say, I know you're not going to like this, but I think we have to do this, and let me tell you why. I prayed about it. Maybe I should pray more, but I'm going to go ahead and do X. you know? And, you know, as far as, by the way, what young people should be looking for, I just have to, can I comment on just this for young men? Like, and young women especially. If you go out on your first date and that guy doesn't pay, you're out. Like this, like sharing, like having the new thing of having different checking accounts when you get married, separating out, that is a disaster.
You're
like,
old school.
Everything we do is together. We are one.
Yeah, but you're old school though. Not everybody have the best intentions. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Young people are preparing for divorce, and if you're a young man listening, you better get down to the deep south. It's your only hope, and get into one of these churches and find your wife, because you're not going to find him in.
You know, I love this. All the couples are just great, but you guys are old school. I mean, some people will listen at some of this and say you anxious. You say I got the last word, and then she said I got to make a plea. But you know, it works. That's all that matters, is that it works. And that's what the Bible says. But not everybody believes the Bible. Okay, people have their own free will and make the decision. That's probably why a lot of marriages don't work. But I have so much respect for Steve and Kelly for joining us. Because Kelly, I don't know what he did to convince you, but I'm glad he did. I'm glad you joined us today. When we come back, the Jollies, and they are jolly, will join us on the salute to marriage on this Valentine's Day. We'll be back.
As a home buyer, you need a lender who cares about your home ownership dreams. United Security Financial has been helping families secure their dream homes for 30 years. We're a national fair practice lender that provides affordable mortgages and low down payment programs to eligible home buyers. To learn how United Security Financial can help you secure your dream home, call 1-800-373-4186.
So, Dee, is marriage sustained more by love or by vows?
Both.
Explain it to us.
Well, Willie, my loving partner of over 40 years.
Wow.
We've written a book together, Make Love, Make Money, Make It Last, and we address that topic, and we talk about the fact that being friends is so very important. So it's not just the vow.
So when feelings fluctuate, what anchors the commitment?
Feelings, it's not about the feeling, it's about the commitment that you've made to this person, who is also your best friend.
Go ahead.
Well, love is an emotion. Marriage is a decision. And so people often get married thinking that it's the love, but going back to your first question, we make a commitment by what we do. Every day I tell her I love her. And I do that for two reasons. One, to give her confidence that I still love her and make her secure. But second is to make sure I remember why I married her. I'm conditioning myself. So, you know, we've been married 40 years, haven't had an argument in 38 years. People don't believe that, but that's the truth, because we do certain things and systems. When we first got married, we had arguments. Someone asked, y'all never had an argument? I said, no, I didn't say that. I said we haven't had an argument in 38 years. Those first couple of years were like World War III. But we learned some wise principles from some wise marriage mentors who told us, here's what you do to stop arguing and get to loving. We did it. It worked. We put it in a book, and now we've got millions of people who've read our books on marriage, Make Love, Make Money, Make It Last, and they say some of them were on their way to divorce court, and it turned them around. It gave them systems.
So based on what he said, does marriage require more of shared values or shared interests?
Both.
Elaborate.
When you say values, are you talking about your faith, the concept of family, the concept of what friendship looks like? Then that's important, because you're marching down the path together, right? And then shared values
and shared interests.
He was a tennis player.
Right.
I was not. But because he was my friend, I was willing to go with him while he played. And he tolerated me playing until we got married. Then he said, you know what, you ruined my game. I'm not going to play with you anymore.
And you're okay with that, by the way.
And I'm okay with that, yeah.
And I go to things with her, watch HGTV or whatever she wants to do.
Yoga is my thing. And he has tolerated me with yoga because sometimes we do yoga as a date night. Now, does he really like it? No, because he can't stretch like that. But I know he loves me because he's willing to do it because I like it.
That's her interest.
What have you learned in your chatter with other couples? Because I know people come and lay their burdens and their challenges at your feet. What have you discovered why many marriages fail?
Oh, there are 3 reasons why marriages fail. We write about it in the book. Sex, money, communication. Those are the 3 boulders. And the most important of those is communication. It's the communication. If you got good communication, you have better love life. You have good communication, you have a good money life. You know, I wrote the book, Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better, because we're talking to couples about how to manage and deal with money issues that could break them up. And so, of those 3, communication is most important, Armstrong. Deej, you have something.
Can I interject here?
Yes.
When we talk about communication, we really have to stop and listen. Because you could be saying the same words, but the words could mean something completely different to each party. And you say, well, how is that possible? Depending upon the culture that you came from as a part of that family.
So is marriage a promise to remain or a promise to grow?
Gosh, that's good.
That's a great question. And I think it's to grow. Because we like to say it, we just said it to her yesterday, we have a marriage show every Monday night, and we were talking about it this week on our marriage show, that it's a Jolley marriage show on YouTube, by the way. Here's what we said, all weddings are beautiful. Marriages become beautiful over time. You grow into that beauty. You grow into loving each other. I love her more now than I did 40 years ago when we got married. I understand her. Sometimes we're talking, she doesn't even finish the sentence. I say, yeah, we got to do that. And so we grow together.
That's the value of understanding what the words mean that you're actually saying. And I think that is so very important.
So why is it that when couples age, whether it's the man or the woman, they feel they need to find someone else they're not fulfilled. They want someone both looks more like in their days of their youth. Why does that happen? Were they ever?
No. Here's what happened. It's easy. That's an easy answer. They didn't commit to making sure they took time for themselves during the formative years of their kids.
Date night.
Date night. You got to have a date night.
Now, you say, well, why? Because you have children, you've got professions, you're doing all of these things. But before you were married, you had concentrated time where you gazed into each other's eyes, where you talked about what was on your heart, where you shared what you saw for your future, what your future might be together. But oftentimes when we get married, we're like, there's a routine, there's a schedule, there are all these things going on.
And the kids take over, and they stop growing together, going back to your question.
And we learned that.
Yeah.
When Willie started traveling and doing all these other things, and I'm there with the kids, and we realized we're not, what city are you, where you go? So date night was necessary.
Every Thursday night.
To maintain our relationship.
We have a date night and even though the kids are gone, we started over 30 years ago. Every Thursday night, we'd watch L.A. Law and Hill Street Blues. We'd eat some Jiffy Pop popcorn. The door was open. The kids could walk by to go to the bathroom, but they couldn't come in. And we could not talk about the kids, nor talk about the bills.
So earlier on, we had the Allsops, and I asked Janylle about respect in a marriage, and boy, she lit up because she talked about the importance of it. Is respect the oxygen of marriage?
That's a great question. Is it the oxygen?
What is the oxygen?
Well, it's a major part of the marriage, but it depends. That depends too. Because see, men and women have different things that we've learned. Women need two things. Gentlemen, listen carefully. They need intimacy and security. Listen carefully. They need it.
And then one is not the same.
No, they're not the same. No. And sex is not intimacy. Intimacy may lead to sex, but intimacy for a woman is that warm feeling. Your job, man,
which tends to be a challenge for many men when I talk to women who are married, and the challenge that they may have with their mate, they have an issue explaining that they were not satisfied.
Really?
Yes.
How do you satisfy a woman?
Well, you need to ask her. What's important to her?
You.
You gotta talk to her. You gotta go back to communication. Sex, money, communication. If you don't talk to them and find out what they like, look, it's the love languages. We talk about.
We're not finished with the sex.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So for men, it's sex and respect. That's different. So for intimacy, being close to him, snuggling with him in my PJs, curled up in the bed, watching that's intimacy for me.
Love it.
Okay? But for him, all right, when everything gets aroused and hard, then he's ready to have sex. That's different.
There you go.
Can we talk about that?
I told you let her loose. Make love, make money, make it last at jollymarriage.com. 40 years. There's a reason why we're here 40 years.
But he can still deliver.
Absolutely.
Come on, somebody.
He can still deliver. And that's important to you.
That's important, but it's not as important as that he values me.
He values you.
He values me. And I am his trophy. That is how he makes me feel.
What about the importance of him surprising you?
Oh, that's not necessary. I don't need that. No.
You don't need that.
Now, as we move into, can I say, as we move into Valentine's Day, different things for different people. I don't need any of that because he provides me with that Valentine's Day love every day, all day long. So I don't need a $1,000 meal. I got it every day.
Let me read a quote for you. Okay, this is from
we only have a minute left.
Zig Ziglar. Look, it's from my book, and I encourage everybody also to go to winwithwillie.com. Winwithwillie.com. Get both books. Make Love, Make Money, Make It Last, and Rich is Good, Wealthy is Better. Zig Ziglar said, I have no way of knowing whether you marry the right person or the wrong person, but I do know that many people have a lot of wrong ideas about marriage and what it takes to make that marriage happy and successful. I'll be the first to admit that it is possible you did marry the wrong person. However, if you treat the wrong person like the right person, you well could have ended up marrying the right person after all. On the other hand, if you marry the right person and treat that person wrong, you certainly will have ended up marrying the wrong person. I also know that it's far more important.
Make love, make money, make it last. You got to buy the book.
Get the book. You got to get the rest out.
I want to thank all of our guests. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, wonderful. I'm Sean Williams. We're out of here. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.